Shadows and silk. Sophia Reyes adjusted her simple black blazer before stepping into the gleaming headquarters of Monarch Fashion House. The towering glass building reflected the morning sun, casting kaleidoscope patterns across the marble lobby. 6 weeks into her temporary administrative position, she still felt like an imposter among the glossy, confident fashion elite who strode through these halls. "Coffee, Ms. Reyes." The security guard smiled warmly. Unlike most of the staff, he had always treated her with kindness. "Thanks, Eddie. How's your daughter's recital coming along?" Sophia accepted the cup gratefully, the warmth seeping into her fingers. "She's practicing every night. Says she'll be a prima ballerina by summer." His pride was palpable. Sophia smiled genuinely. These small connections were what made her undercover mission bearable. Because that's what this was, a mission to understand the empire her estranged father had built before she decided whether to claim her birthright. The elevator ascended to the 14th floor, where the administrative department buzzed with pre-meeting anxiety. Sophia slipped into her modest cubicle, sandwiched between the supply closet and the break room. Her strategic position had given her unprecedented access to company gossip and operations. "Morning, Sophia." Camila Ortiz, fellow admin and Sophia's only friend at Monarch, leaned against her cubicle wall. "The quarterly review meeting's been moved up. Marcus is on the warpath." Sophia's stomach tightened at the mention of Marcus Bennett, the marketing director whose reputation for ruthlessness was matched only by his impeccable taste. At 34, he'd climbed too near the top of Monarch's hierarchy through a combination of brilliant marketing strategies and carefully orchestrated power plays. "Thanks for the warning." Sophia began organizing the quarterly reports she'd spent the weekend perfecting. "Any particular reason for his mood?" Camila lowered her voice. "Rumor has it, Frederick Winters is finally retiring. Everyone knows Marcus has been gunning for creative director since he started here. Frederick Winters, her father's oldest friend, and the only person at Monarch who knew Sophia's true identity. He'd arranged her position, promising to keep her secret until she was ready." The morning dissolved into a flurry of activity. Sophia shuttled between departments, collecting last-minute data for the presentation. Her simple attire, neutral colors, minimal makeup, hair pulled back rendered her nearly invisible among the fashionable crowd. It was precisely the anonymity she needed. At the conference room, she carefully arranged the presentation materials, listening as executives trickled in. Marcus arrived last, his tailored charcoal suit a statement of authority. "Is everything prepared?" His cool gaze swept over her without truly seeing her. "Yes, Mr. Bennett. The quarterly reports, market analysis, and competitor breakdowns are all here." She handed him the leather portfolio she'd meticulously prepared. He flipped through it briefly. "The Asian Market Expansion Proposal, Section 3, with the projected 5-year growth models you requested." A flicker of surprise crossed his face before he nodded curtly. "You may go." As Sophia turned to leave, she caught a glimpse of her father's portrait hanging in the boardroom. Richard Langston, not the name she'd grown up with after her parents' divorce. Her mother had reverted to her maiden name, Reyes, and raised Sophia far from the fashion world. The resemblance between father and daughter was subtle but unmistakable to anyone who might look closely enough. Fortunately, no one ever looked closely at temporary administrative assistants. The meeting lasted 3 hours. From her desk, Sophia could hear Marcus's commanding voice through the walls as he presented her work as his own. It didn't matter. She wasn't here for credit or recognition. She was here to understand the soul of Monarch before deciding whether to reveal herself to her father, who had been sending reconciliation letters for years. What she hadn't anticipated was how much she would come to care about the company itself, with its rich history and untapped potential, or how clearly she would see the toxic culture that had taken root under executives like Marcus Bennett. As the meeting concluded, an executive spilled out. Sophia quietly collected the abandoned coffee cups and presentation materials, invisible, observing, learning. Tomorrow would bring her one step closer to a decision that would change everything for herself, for her father, and for Monarch Fashion House. The fall of the catastrophe arrived on a rain-soaked Tuesday morning. Sophia hurried into Monarch's lobby, shaking droplets from her umbrella as she balanced a stack of presentation boards. The quarterly buyer showcase was scheduled for noon, and Marcus had demanded last-minute changes to the entire portfolio. Need help? Camila appeared beside her, taking half the load. You look like you haven't slept. I haven't, Sophia admitted. 3 complete revisions since midnight. Marcus kept sending emails with new demands. The elevator ride was silent as both women mentally prepared for the day ahead. The marketing department hummed with nervous energy buyers from luxury retailers. Across Europe and Asia would be arriving in just hours. Where are the revised market projections? Marcus's voice cut through the office noise as Sophia stepped onto the floor. His eyes narrowed when he spotted her. You're late. I apologize, Mr. Bennett. The print shop opened at excuses are for the incompetent. Gesturing impatiently for the materials, Sophia handed over the presentation boards and the accompanying data folders. She'd labeled everything meticulously, color-coding sections to match his presentation outline. Marcus flipped through them with rapid efficiency, his expression unreadable. The Milan buyer demographics? He asked sharply. Section 4, with the psychographic overlay you requested. For a moment, something like approval flickered across his face, and his attention caught on one of the boards. What is this? Sophia leaned forward. The comparative analysis for this is the old data. His voice dropped dangerously. These are last quarter's numbers. Sophia's heart froze. That's not possible. I updated everything according to... Are you contradicting me? Marcus held up the board where, indeed, the numbers from the previous quarter were displayed. Impossible. She'd replaced those herself. The office had gone silent. Dozens of eyes watched the unfolding scene. There must be a mistake at the print. Shot, Sophia began. The mistake, Marcus cut in, voice rising, was hiring someone clearly incapable of following simple instructions. He dropped the boards onto a nearby desk with a loud slap. Do you have any idea what you've done? We have international buyers arriving in 3 hours, and our presentation now contains false data that makes us look incompetent. Sophia felt her face burning. Fix it. I have the correct files. You've done enough. Marcus's voice had gone cold. His eyes flintered. You're fired, effective immediately. Clear your desk and be out of the building in 15 minutes. The silence in the office was deafening. Sophia stood frozen, acutely aware of every pair of eyes on her, every held breath. Mr. Bennett, Camila stepped forward tentatively. I could just point out anyone else who'd like to join her is welcome to submit their resignation. Marcus snapped, effectively silencing any support. Sophia straightened her shoulders, fighting to maintain her dignity. Without a word, she turned and walked steadily to her desk. With mechanical precision, she gathered her few personal items into her bag, a photo of her mother. A small plant, a worn copy of her favorite design theory book. As she packed, she noticed a familiar folder partially hidden under her keyboard, the original data files she'd prepared. Opening it, she discovered the updated sheets were missing, replaced with the previous quarter's reports. This wasn't a mistake. Someone had deliberately sabotaged her work. She glanced across the office to where Veronica temps. Marcus's assistant watched with a small, satisfied smile. The woman had made no secret of her ambition to move into a permanent position. Sophia closed the folder. Didn't matter now. She'd learned everything she needed to know about Monarch Fashion House and about Marcus Bennett. Eddie, the security guard, looked distressed as he escorted her out, as protocol required for terminated employees. This isn't right, Ms. Reyes, he murmured. Everyone knows you're the hardest worker in that department. Thank you, Eddie. She managed a small smile. Make sure your daughter invites me to that recital, okay? The rain had stopped, but gray clouds still hung heavy over the city as Sophia stepped onto the sidewalk, unemployed for the first time in her adult life. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number she'd memorized but never used. Frederick? It's Sophia. I think it's time we had that talk about my father's company. Phoenix Rising 2 weeks passed in a flurry of private meetings, legal consultations, and long overdue conversations with her father. Richard Langston had wept when Sophia finally agreed to see him older than the portrait in the boardroom. His hair now silver, but with the same intensity in his eyes that Sophia recognized from her own mirror. "I never thought you'd come," he said simply. Holding her hands across the table of the private restaurant where they'd arranged to meet. "I needed to understand the company first," Sophia explained. "To see it without the influence of your position." "What did you learn?" His voice was gentle, but carried the weight of years of separation. "That Monarch has lost its way," she answered honestly. "The vision you founded it, with innovation balanced with ethical practices and genuine respect for creativity, it's been buried under politics and ego." He nodded slowly. "That's why I've been trying to reach you all these years. The company needs new blood, a return to its founding principles. When your mother took you after the divorce..." He paused, emotion catching in his throat. "I respected her wishes to keep you away from this world, but I always hoped you'd find your way back." The rest of the conversation had led to today Sophia. Standing outside the main conference room of Monarch Fashion House, dressed in a stunning cobalt blue suit of her own design. Beside her, Frederick Winters checked his watch. "Everyone's assembled," he said with a barely suppressed smile. "Your father is making the initial announcement now." Through the frosted glass, Sophia could see the silhouettes of Monarch's staff department. Heads seated at the table, others standing along the walls. She caught snippets of her father's voice. ... Significant leadership changes. ... Future of the company. Frederick squeezed her arm encouragingly. "Ready to make history?" The door opened and Richard Langston's voice rang clear-eyed. "Like to introduce you to the new creative director of Monarch Fashion House, my daughter, Sophia Langston Reyes." Sophia stepped into the room, her gaze immediately finding Marcus Bennett among the shocked faces. He had gone deathly pale, his usual composure shattered as recognition dawned in his eyes. The silence was broken by a whispered, "Oh my God," from Camila, followed by scattered gasps and murmurs as understanding rippled through the room. "You, father," Sophia said, her voice steady as she moved to the head of the table. "For those who don't recognize me without a coffee tray in my hands, I was recently in your administrative department as Sophia Reyes. That experience has given me unique insights into both the strengths and weaknesses of our operations." She opened a portfolio identical to the one she'd prepared for Marcus weeks earlier. "I believe in knowing a company from the ground up before attempting to lead it. What I've learned will guide my vision for Monarch's future." Her gaze swept the room, noting the various reactions: shock, confusion, calculation, and in a few cases, genuine delight. Veronica Thames looked as though she might faint. "There will be changes," Sophia continued, "significant ones. But first, I'd like to address the leadership structure." She turned directly to Marcus, who had recovered enough to adopt a mask of professional neutrality. "Mr. Bennett, I'd like you to join me in my office after this meeting. We have much to discuss about your future with the company." The look of barely concealed panic on his face gave Sophia no pleasure. This wasn't about revenge. It was about rebuilding something. It's beautiful that had lost its way. As the meeting concluded and people filed out, many casting bewildered glances, her wife Sophia remained at the table reviewing her notes. She sensed, rather than saw Marcus lingering by the door, clearly uncertain whether to approach her or flee. "Mr. Bennett," she said without looking up, 3 o'clock in my office. Don't be late." Balanced scales, Marcus Bennett arrived at exactly 3 o'clock, knocking on the door of what had been Frederick Winters' office until yesterday. The room had already been transformed, the heavy mahogany furniture replaced with sleek, modern pieces. The walls now adorned with bold textile designs and architectural photographs. "Come in," Sophia called, not looking up from the documents spread across her glass desk. He entered with the stiff posture of a man walking to his own execution. "Miss Langston Reyes, please sit." She gestured to the chair opposite her desk. Finally meeting his eyes, arrogance she remembered had been replaced with something more complex wariness, certainly, but also a reluctant curiosity. "I assume you've called me here to terminate my employment," he said, voice carefully neutral. "I would appreciate the professional courtesy of doing it privately." Sophia studied him for a moment. "Is that what you would do in my position?" His jaw tightened. "I believe you already know the answer to that." "Yes," she agreed. "Public humiliation seems to be your preferred management technique." Marcus had the grace to look uncomfortable. "About that day, let me be clear," Sophia interrupted. I'm not interested in apologies designed to save your job. I'm interested in results. She slid a folder across the desk toward him. Is my proposal for restructuring the marketing department? Confusion flickered across his face as he cautiously opened the folder. He scanned the first page, then looked up sharply. This is a promotion to Senior Vice President of Global Marketing. Yes, Sophia leaned back in her chair. With expanded responsibilities and a direct reporting line to me, Marcus stared at her. I don't understand. It's quite simple. You're extremely good at your job, Mr. Bennett. Your marketing strategies have increased our market share by 14% in 2 years. What you're not good at is leadership. The blunt assessment clearly caught him off guard. I have consistently delivered results through fear and intimidation. Yes. And in doing so, you've created a toxic culture that stifles creativity and drives away talent. Sophia stood, walking to the window that overlooked the city. Monarch was founded on my father's belief that the best designs come from environments where people feel valued and heard. She turned back to face him. I'm offering you this position because I believe in utilizing talent effectively. You'll handle the strategic planning and global positioning that you excel at. The day-to-day management of the team will be handled by someone better suited to nurturing creativity. Camila Ortiz, he guessed, looking back at the organizational chart. Sophia nodded. She has remarkable people skills and understands the market deeply. Together, you could transform our global presence. If you can adapt to a new way of working, Marcus closed the folder, his expression unreadable. And if I refuse, then you'll receive a generous severance package and excellent references. Sophia returned to her desk. This isn't punishment, Mr. Bennett. It's opportunity. I don't need to fire you to establish my authority and like you. I don't build myself up by tearing others down. Something shifted in his expression, a flash of shame quickly masked by professional composure. May I have time to consider the offer? Of course. You have until tomorrow morning. Sophia picked up a pen, signaling the meeting was coming to an end. One more thing, Mr. Bennett. The incident with the presentation boards? He stiffened. Yes. We both know someone tampered with those files. I expect that sort of sabotage to end immediately under the new structure. Am I clear? His eyes widened slightly at her directness. Crystal clear. Good. She returned her attention to her work. I'll see you tomorrow morning with your decision. After he left, Sophia sat back in her chair, releasing a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Leadership wasn't about revenge. Or power plays. It was about recognizing potential and creating the conditions for it to flourish. The next morning, Marcus accepted the position. Patterns restitched, 6 months transformed Monarch Fashion House. Under Sophia's leadership, the company reclaimed its reputation for innovation while establishing new standards for ethical production. The toxic competitive culture gave way to collaborative creativity, though not without resistance and setbacks. Marcus Bennett's adjustment proved the most fascinating evolution to witness. The first month, he operated with rigid formality, his interactions with Sophia coldly professional. He delivered exceptional work with military precision, but remained isolated, trusted by few. The turning point came during the Tokyo expansion project. 3 days before the presentation to Japanese investors, their main production partner withdrew, citing concerns about capacity. Sophia found Marcus in the conference room at midnight, surrounded by reports and market analyses, searching for an alternative. You should go home, he said without looking up. We'll find a solution. Instead, she set down 2 cups of coffee and took a seat across from him. Tell me what we're looking for. He glanced up, surprise evident. But you don't need to, Marcus, she said simply, using his first name for the first time. This is what leadership looks like. We solve problems together. Something shifted between them that night as they worked side by side, identifying a small, women-owned textile cooperative that could handle the production with better quality and ethical standards. When dawn broke, they had reconstructed the entire proposal. The Tokyo launch succeeded beyond projections, establishing a new model for Monarch's international partnerships. More importantly, it marked the beginning of a genuine working relationship between Sophia and Marcus. By the 4th month, The change in Marcus became noticeable to everyone. He still maintained exacting standards, but now delivered criticism. Constructively, consulted Camila on team dynamics and actually listened to her advice. Most surprisingly, he began mentoring junior staff, something unimaginable in the previous regime. "You're staring again?" Camila remarked one afternoon as they watched. Marcus patiently explaining market positioning to a new designer. "I'm observing." "Professional growth," Sophia corrected with a small smile. "Ma'am," Camila's knowing look spoke volumes. "Just professional interest?" Sophia changed the subject, unwilling to examine the complex emotions that had begun to develop. Marcus was becoming someone she respected, someone who challenged her thinking and complemented her creative vision with strategic brilliance. Someone who made her laugh with his dry wit during late-night planning sessions. Someone whose rare, genuine smile had started to affect her concentration. On the anniversary of her first day at Monarch, Sophia found a small box on her desk. Inside was a perfectly crafted miniature umbrella replica of the one she'd carried on the day Marcus had fired her. The note read simply, "Reminding myself how wrong first impressions can be. Thank you for the second chance I didn't deserve." That evening, they found themselves alone in the design studio, reviewing the upcoming collection. "Why did you really keep me on?" Marcus asked suddenly. "The truth this time," Sophia considered him thoughtfully. "Because firing you would have been easy. Challenging you to become better, that was the harder path for both of us." And now, his voice had softened, the question hanging between them, laden with unspoken meaning. "Now I think we've both become better," she answered carefully. "The company certainly has." He moved closer, his usual confidence replaced with genuine vulnerability. "Sophia, I need to say something I should have said months ago.
I was wrong.
Just about the firing, but about who you were. I looked at you and saw only what I expected to see." "And what do you see now?" she asked quietly. "Everything I wasn't looking for," he admitted. "Someone who leads with compassion but never compromises on excellence. Someone who transformed this company not through power, but through vision." The professional boundaries they'd maintained began to blur as he took her hand. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway." "You've already earned it," Sophia said softly, "through actions, not words." Their first kiss felt like the completion of a design long in the making. Elements that initially seemed discordant revealing their perfect complementary nature when finally aligned. Outside the studio windows, the lights of the city sparkled against the night sky. Monarch Fashion House stood among them, its internal patterns restitched, stronger and more beautiful than before. Sophia thought of her father, now semi-retired, but still beaming with pride at what she'd accomplished. She thought of her journey from invisible assistant to leader. Most of all, she thought about the unlikelihood of finding connection in the place she least expected it with the person who had once dismissed her so completely. Second chances, Sophia realized, were the most exquisite designs of all.